The incredible prevalence of corruption in the last Afghan government is considered a key reason why the Taliban were able to take over so easily to begin with. That's especially true of how corruption hollowed out the Afghan National Defense and Security Forces. The corruption allowed key leaders to be willing to make deals with the Taliban and tell their troops to put down their arms and stop resisting. For those troops who did want to keep resisting, they found themselves in an isolated outpost with no food, weapons, ammunition, or anything else they needed to fight, making it relatively easy for the Taliban to take over. So it's reasonable to ask, what's corruption going to look like under the new Taliban regime? And here the answer is quite mixed. The Taliban is running on a good governance platform. This is very common for new regimes that do take over from regimes known for their corruption and bad governance. And here they have a leg up. They do have a history of governing relatively better than the old Afghan regime. If one had a business dispute or a land dispute, one would probably want to take it to a Taliban judge. Their results might be quite brutal, but it would generally be considered fair and less prone to bribery. Likewise with trade. Many traders would choose to spend most of their time traveling through Taliban territory rather than territory controlled by the Afghan military or police. This is because you knew what bribes you had to pay the Taliban, you paid them very easily, and then you went through their territory relatively unmolested. Not necessarily true in many of the Afghan military and police checkpoints. You never knew where those police checkpoints were going to be, how much you were going to pay, and there were lots of reports of truckers that were hijacked and their goods stolen even within sight of the checkpoint they just paid off. So in that regard, the Taliban do have a leg up on good governance. On the other side, many of the elites of the Taliban are heavily involved in transnational organized crime, whether it be narcotics production and smuggling, gemstone smuggling, timber smuggling. You name a criminal activity, there's a good chance some of the Taliban elite is involved in it, not only in Afghanistan and Pakistan, but in Central Asia and throughout Gulf countries as well. And it makes it very hard to have good government when your leadership is heavily involved in criminal activity and the corruption that has to go with it. After all, the fish rots from the head. Moreover, the Taliban made deals with a lot of the heads of the criminal patronage networks of the old regime. We don't know what the Taliban promised the likes of Hamid Karzai, Abdullah, or Ismail Khan to get them to work with the Taliban rather than to fight or to flee the Taliban, but it probably did not involve a lot of transparency, accountability, and good governance requirements. So it will be very hard for the Taliban to maintain a relatively clean government given their involvement in organized crime. It is possible that the Taliban might be able to maintain a unitary government and keep control over both its leadership and its rank and file and limit those criminal activities and the corruption that generally comes with it. But it's also very possible that the various criminal patronage networks within the Taliban itself might break into their own warlordism, leaving Afghanistan into a series of warlord fiefdoms not unlike what Afghanistan faced after the Soviet Union withdrew in the early 1990s.